Matty, back again for another video. And today we're going to talk about another topic that every athlete is going to experience pretty much at every stage of their careers. And that's
having a good day.
Not quite. Hopefully they have those as well. But this one's about having bad days and how do we turn them around.
There's no point, mate. We can wrap up this video nice and quick. Athletes don't have bad days. They're athletes. They get to do sport for what they do. That's it.
Well, it's all sunshine and rainbows and there's never a problem.
No, never a bad day, mate. Let's just wrap it up right now.
Oh,
no, fair enough. All right, so we all have bad days in sport. Look, honestly, some of the interviews I hear, though, when you hear a really good athlete talking, like they say, you know what, at the end of the day, I get to play my sport for a living and I'm pretty grateful that I get to do that. So, you know, today was a bad day, but, you know, I'll be right. I'll be back, you know, and that's their general type of mindset. But let's go into the nitty gritty. Let's go into some of the things that are probably going on to allow them to say stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, it's such a big topic because if any athlete is going to be competitive and hopefully compete at a high level in their sport, results aren't going to go their way every time. Like, you're going to have to deal with failure. You're going to have to deal with losing. You're going to have to deal with not performing well. So it's unavoidable, basically, if you're going to be a competitive athlete. So it's a reality that you're going to have to deal with. So learning how to deal with it is important.
Yeah, well, there's a pretty popular thing out at the moment. I've got a few basketball clients that have told me out on Netflix. I think there's something about Michael Jordan's life going on at the moment. I haven't seen it yet, but anyway, I mean, one of his main mottos was, I succeeded because I failed so often, you know? So that's a lot of bad days we're talking about there.
Yes.
So, all right, let's go. First up, what's the first type of topic area?
Well, I think if bad days are unavoidable and we're all going to have them, a good place to start from is thinking, okay, well, how can I utilize having bad days? And that's, we can start to have a mindset where it's an opportunity for growth and something that we can learn from. And so there'll always be a time for reflection and after the fact, but even when we're going through it, we can just sort of know that, like, all right, so maybe the game plan didn't work today, or how we wanted to execute, you know, what we were performing didn't happen, but I'm going to be able to learn from this. And hopefully this bad day is going to make me better in the future. I'm going to compete better in the future. So
I agree with you. So some people are in better shape to deal with a bad day before the bad day even starts, aren't they? By whether they view it as something that they can learn from or it's just something that's basically is crap.
Yeah, so you might learn something about yourself or how you approach practice, how you approach competition that maybe you weren't aware of. And then there's this bad day, bad result, can bring it into the light. And then you go, okay, so this is going to actually something that's going to help me. Bad days can help.
Yeah, it's hard to see that at the time when they're happening in your sport, isn't it? You're just like, oh, this is a nightmare. What's going on?
You know, all sorts of emotions, anger, frustration, sadness. They're all going to be like, it's hard to have that perspective when you're going through all those emotions and feelings.
I guess that kind of leads me to the next point I want to talk about, which is, can you see what's happening? Like, does your mind have the skills to be able to observe what's happening and go, hold on a sec here, this could be one of those bad day things here that I have to just deal with today.
Yep.
You know? So I think you need to work on your observation skills of observing yourself, observing the surroundings, and being very adaptable to that. Adaptable is a big word I think athletes need to really hone in on and understand and figure out what that means to them. You know, does it mean on a day where the weather's not how they like it that they got to go, okay, it's one of those days, no worries. I've had a few of those over the last few months. I'm getting better at dealing with it, you know, like just being able to observe the situation instead of being in the kind of like rage of it, you know?
Well, with that attitude, you're not at the mercy of what happens. So regardless of what happens, or maybe how my competitive round of golf starts or how the first half of the soccer match goes, I'm going to have this awareness and that I'm not going to be completely at the mercy of results.
Yeah.
So it kind of puts a little bit of an insulation around you and what's happening.
Oh, So results and processes are topics that every sports psychology textbook basically goes into, and it comes up yet again. I mean, it's going to keep coming up because it is such a big role. But what we're talking about here with overcoming bad day is how your identity is linked to the process or the score. If all you do is your sport, which a lot of really great athletes spend most of their time and energy doing, it's very easy for your identity to just go, hey, I'm a kayaker. That's all I am. I train for kayaking 8 hours a day, 6 hours a day. I come home, I'm exhausted. I compete every month or whatever. And sometimes the mind just really gets carried away with things and starts to think, hey, that's who I am. That's it, But what do we need to do with our identity to basically unlink ourselves from the score so much?
Yeah, well, that's it. So it's separating who you are as a person from the results you have, what score you shoot, if your team wins or loses or not. So just because I have a bad day, that doesn't mean I can't still be like respectful and work well with my teammates and take it as an opportunity to learn. All of those things are in my control and they're separate to the result. So no matter what happens, if you sort of say like, look, this is the person I'm going to be, that is separate to whatever score I shoot or whatever happens.
Yeah, too good.
So yeah, just because I have a bad day doesn't mean I'm a bad person.
Yeah, and easier said than done, I will agree with, but doesn't mean that you cop out excuse-wise mentally and don't do it. It's
never an excuse either to be disrespectful or not treat other people well in your sport just because you've had a bad day.
So what we're after with all this is building up these adaptable mental skills, and we call them skills because they are that. You can build them, you can work on them, they can get better, they can reduce if you don't use them. Yep. And so we're feeding new beliefs, which are things like, I have mental insulation to deal with bad days. I've got deep layers of being able to just like shake things off, brush things off. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, that's the end kind of.
Yeah, see yourself as a resilient athlete.
Yeah.
That takes setbacks as opportunities to grow.
Yeah.
And like which is, I would say, a mark of really champion athletes that have success for long stages of their careers. They take setbacks on board, and they're adaptable, and they can insulate themselves and their identity.
All right. So you and I tend to have conversations like this, which go for around about half hour to an hour. Let's not do that to the YouTube audience out there, right? Let's give them some things now that they can quickly just put into the next training session, their next competition, whenever it is, and some takeaways.
Sure. Well, the first tip I would have would be to put your friend hat on. So basically, I think a lot of people have a tendency to talk to themselves normally pretty badly. Like they'll talk down on yourself, put yourself down. What are you doing? Messed up again. So imagine that instead of talking to yourself, you're talking to a friend of yours. Like how would you speak to a friend? What advice would you give them? So if I was to say, Jordan, I've had a really bad day at my sport, I would say, look, Jordan, it's true. The result didn't go your way today, but you practiced really well the week leading up. You had a good pre-round routine. You did everything you could in the lead up. And I think you're going to move on and learn and, have success in the future. Like talk to yourself like you would talk to your friend.
And look, people are going to kind of go, oh yeah, another one that sounds easy, hard to do, which is true. But it feels very weird at first because you probably haven't been doing it. Like we're not taught that well to talk to ourselves like that, right? So I would just encourage people on that one that it is a good idea and that you need to give it a bit of space and time for that type of language that you talk to yourself to unravel and become more comfortable.
You could even try it, like imagine writing yourself a letter. If you were on that day that this bad result occurs, come back home, take out a notebook and a pen and write a letter to yourself and say like, so dear Jordan, this is what happened today. And then give yourself encouragement, give yourself feedback, and talk to yourself like you were writing a really good friend a letter.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I was talking with a clinical psychologist once who his main technique of what he would do with patients is after they would have a session, he would write a letter to them, post it in the mail about his thoughts and feelings and advice, recommendations, also just things for the person to reflect upon. And he said it was one of the best things feedback-wise that his clients said worked for them over the years. So, yeah, great idea. Write a
Take
letter.
good advice out of your head and putting it on paper can add a bit of extra strength and power to it as well.
All right, cool. Another takeaway is we talked about this before. Some people call it a pattern interrupt, right? So basically, you know, like people would relate to this. You have something happen in the car, or, you know, it's called road rage, basically, where someone does something to you nasty and all of a sudden you feel furious and you feel like, oh, you know, that was absolutely ridiculous what that person does. For anyone who's driven, they will know straight away what we're talking about, right?
That's powerful.
For you people that haven't driven in a car yet, well, there's one of the things you get to look forward to, right? People doing stupid things. Anyway, this pattern interrupt, what you were referring to with this idea when we discussed it earlier was that if someone's having a real bad day, maybe not so much in their event, but maybe like throughout the day, this seems to be a more applicable tool. Mm-hmm. You might just stop what you're doing, check in with things that you're interested in. Maybe if you've got a list already worked out of things you want to do but you haven't had a chance to do, go and buy yourself a ticket to something nice, right? Just basically break the mold of your mind of, oh, this is horrible, I hate this, this is, you know, this is unfair, and just snap the mold into something of, damn, that's something to look forward to. Mm-hmm. So give an example, like what would you book in for? Something like like a new music group that's coming out or something, or
yeah, maybe you've got a band that you like.
Yeah.
Maybe they've got a show coming up in a couple of weeks. Tickets $30. Go online, buy a ticket to that. Maybe there's a new movie that you want to see. I'll go and buy a ticket to that in a couple of nights. Or
for all you gamers out there, maybe it's a new game you want to get. Just, yeah, I know it seems a bit superficial, but this stuff works in your mind. It does. Yeah.
And like we were talking about with your identity, it is because every athlete has other areas of their life that are important to them. Hobbies and interests, things that we enjoy doing away from our sport. So, and this is another way to sort of strengthen your identity. You're like, oh, I like music as well, or I like going to see certain movies, or whatever it might be. So you're building on your other type of identity, something that you enjoy, and it's going to help you get through the bad day. So something else.
Or go and watch on YouTube this guy called Brian Badunde do his little funny comedy skit. That guy's hilarious.
Anything, just
check it out.
Snaps you out
Brian
of it.
Brian Badunde, hilarious. All right, next one. Last takeaway for people. We got something about an idea of a new chapter of a book. Yep. So paint the picture for us of how an athlete would use that.
Yeah, I guess you could almost like use some imagery. So imagine what's occurred today and you've had your bad day. It was kind of like the last chapter of a book. Like it's happened. And now we're starting a new chapter or a new story. So like from this point, what's the future going to look like? How are you going to bounce back?
Start afresh.
Yeah, exactly.
And it could be mid competition. You could even do that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
It's
like a tennis player. Set one, done, boom. That book's closed. New book opens. Away we go.
Yeah, and what that will do if you're creating a new story in your mind, a new chapter, it will bring your focus away from things that have happened that you can't change, into more of a helpful present tense focus where you're like, what's important now? What's the one thing I can focus on and work towards now that's going to write a new story that's going to help me be more successful, enjoy my sport more?
It does work. For sure it works. If you're looking for evidence of whether that works or not, just think to yourself, when you start a fresh new week or a fresh year of life or anything, that energy that comes along with it, right? I don't know about, but every Monday morning, I get way more done than what I would on, say, like a Friday or a Saturday.
And you notice it as well, if like you want to make contact with someone, maybe they won't reply on Thursday or Friday. But if you send them an email Monday morning,
it happens.
They'll get right back to you because you're in this fresh new mindset.
New chapter, new book. Yeah, very good. I think that's plenty. Anything else you want to throw as icing on the cake for people about turning a bad day around, or?
I think that sounds good. I think the overall message is that bad days are really good opportunities. So that's what we want. That's how we want.
So don't miss them. Don't miss that opportunity.
Yeah, that's what if you're going to be a successful athlete long term, you're going to have to use bad days well.
Right, yeah. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you in the next video. Talk to you then.